right, all right. Um, if y'all can let me hear, if y'all can hear me, let me know in the comment section. I'd appreciate that. So I'm just out here in Babylon here, and shit, just surviving another day. You know what I'm saying? Do excuse the background noise. I'm in a populated, busy area here, so nothing I can really do about that. But I figured I'd go live for a handful of minutes. I have not been able to do a live stream in probably, I'd say about a month, right? It's probably been like about a month since I last did a live stream on YouTube, which is funny because I actually attempted to do it twice, but, both times, didn't go so well. So, hopefully, it works out third time, right? Like you ever heard the saying, right? Third time's the charm or something like that, so hopefully it works out this time. Hey, how you doing? Right Hand Ministries, right? That's a cool brother down there. How you doing? Um, so it's funny. Like that brother was telling me the other day that he played one of my videos in his kitchen, and his dad happened to to hear what I was talking about, and his dad was like some one of these woke guys that claims that he knows what's going on or whatever. And he's like, oh, well, how could anybody, talk down about America? How could anybody question America? It's like, well, what the hell is this knucklehead talking about? It's like if you claim that you're in the know and that you know what you're talking about, well, then when somebody like myself, points out the things that you supposedly believe, like how could you sit there and go against that? I just logically, don't see how somebody could say that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if the man was smart, and actually knew what he's talking about, well, then he would be in agreement with what we're, sitting on here talking about. This brother said he got flagged. That's why I've been away. Yeah, I hear you, man. Um, I hear you. Over the course of my time on YouTube, I've lost probably, say, like four or five channels, right? So, you always got to, play it safe and play within the boundaries and, not put up clips from other like news sources or whatever, because, you'll find out after you, use the platform for a while that they don't really like that. It's funny, like, say, for instance, like Jay's channel, it got striked. Somebody struck it down for re uploading a video they put up. But the ironic twist is that the original upload of the video, the original uploader didn't even own the content that the guy struck it for, right? Like, say, for instance, the original uploader, he uploaded a 5-minute clip from, a news agency, right? So Jay re-uploaded it, but somehow the guy struck it and said, "Oh, well, it was copyright." It's like, but wait, but knucklehead, you don't even own the content because you just took it from a news source and uploaded it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what hypocrisy is that? So like how is Jay not allowed to upload the clip? That's somehow copyright. But the other guy who uploaded the clip, he literally doesn't even own the content because he took it from a news organization. But like, how the hell does that make any damn sense? It's pathetic and it's retarded. I mean, anybody that's not willing to acknowledge that, it's clear and obvious that there's a double standard involved. And anybody that's not paying attention might not be able to realize that. But an intelligent person would be able to realize that there's clearly a double standard and hypocrisy taking place. Let's see. Oh well, yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. It's funny. I don't know how you could get flagged for that, but yet, like, say for instance, Cross the Line Radio, I believe they got like what 35,000 subs or something like that. But they'll be on there, saying more stuff than you, and YouTube will promote their content. Like isn't that a bizarre contradiction? Which it's funny. I saw earlier today that Apostle Gabar actually put up a video where he was going against Tazariak, because apparently what happened is, like, yesterday they did a stream, and like they slandered GMS, this them, and that over there they're doing wrong and whatever. So that was ironic listening to that. It always seems like a lot of these camps, just keep going at each other, right? Like, hell, every month there's a new controversy, going on. You know what I'm saying? It's like every other month there's a new drama, and that's the reason why a lot of these camps out here can amass a large following. Why is that? Because people are attracted to the drama, right? That's what keeps people. That's what keeps an audience. Is everybody being attracted to all that drama. So a large amount of people who are subscribed to say the Cross Line Radio, Deacon Hakaz's channel, or Sons of Thunder, or even Vocab Malone, and all these other groups out there. There's so many of them, but a large portion of their audience is not there to get education and edification from them, but rather they're just there. Excuse me. They're just there for the the drama between these groups and individuals within these these certain groups out there. And that's just what it is. I mean, hell, I'll even give you an example, right? Just to prove that, people are into that drama. There's even a popular channel on YouTube for the past, 10 years. It's called Drama Alert, right? And, basically every video they do is about, the weekly drama with all these, celebrities and, Hollywood actors and, influencers and, politics and stuff like that. I believe they got 20 million subscribers or something like that. So that dude in charge over there, he's raking in that cash. Let me see. But yeah, as I said earlier, I haven't been doing many streams. It's difficult in my circumstance to do what I do. Like say, for instance, I recently, just 40 minutes ago, took a hike about maybe 40 minutes up the road to try to find a secluded area where I could sit and do a couple videos. And I ended up getting there, and of course, what do you know, the benches over there are infested with not only ants but also beehives over there. So I'm like, okay, so I guess I can't go over there. So I figured, you know what, I'll just go somewhere else and just do a live stream. Make my time, worth it to one degree or another. You know what I'm saying? And then, another thing as well is, I don't have internet service on my phone, right? I don't have the money to be able to afford that. So sometimes what I have to do is take local, internet from places that provide a free service, around their establishment. Or what I used to do is try to use somebody's hotspot. I got people who allow me to use it, but recently they, couldn't afford to keep paying the payment for that. You know what I'm saying? So, again, it's one trial and aggravation after another. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it gets to the point where it gets aggravating. It gets really aggravating. The truth is, man, it's actually hard, living in modern day America. It's hard living in modern day America, man. Hey, there's always a fee and a tax, right? There's always a fee and a tax that you're going to be paying over here. Shit, I'll give you an example. I know that one example I'll give you how expensive everything is say, for example, most rents over here, for a 2-bedroom studio apartment, you're going to be paying $1,800 upwards of $2,400, depending on your location. Shit, believe it or not, there's a damn miniature apartments up in New York that are running for $4,000 a month. Look that up on YouTube. I believe this dude what's this guy, Drew Binsky? Look him up. He recently did a video, like maybe a month or two ago, about New York's smallest apartments. Recommend checking that out. You'll see what I'm talking about. But yeah, if you were to go over to some of these other countries, like, the Philippines or Brazil or Mexico, you can actually find decent homes over there for a very affordable price. Like, say, for instance, you can find, a 3-bedroom house in Brazil or Mexico for like, $300 a month, $200 a month. Of course, there's some cons with them as well, but compared to U.S. prices, those are very affordable. So there's a lot of guys out there that I watch on the internet who decided to, they left the United States, to seek a better life somewhere else. It seems like, at least over the last couple of years since 2020, there's like a mass exodus from America. People are starting to flee. People are leaving America en masse these days, it seems like. Like, one example I'll give you of somebody I watch is this dude named the Philosophical Gamer. Look him up. And, the way he was able to achieve freedom was that he was able to, hop on a plane and fly over to the Philippines. And, he's paying like what, $200 a month in rent over there, and doing odd end jobs, to get by. And of course, YouTube revenue. Dude's doing pretty damn good over there. And that's just one guy who actually made it, right? That's one success story, that's out there, and I watched probably a couple of dozen other people out there on YouTube who, left the U.S. to live a better life abroad. Because people are starting to wake up and realize, over the past couple decades or whatever, especially say back in the 50s and 60s, everybody thought that America was a nation that had streets paved with gold, but now the cracks are starting to become visible. And everybody's starting to realize, well, it's not all that it's glamour to be. The United States in 2025, it doesn't live up to the hype, and that's obvious to see for anybody that has half a brain. Such as, say, for instance, like this knucklehead down here in the chat named Jill. But how you doing, Mr. Jill? Long time no see. Manuel the Prophet said, Shalomi Tutie. How you doing, Manuel? I'll catch up on some comments. If anybody has a question or comment, do feel free to drop it down below. This will not be a long stream because I have somewhere I have to be, but I got a couple minutes. If somebody has a question or comment, feel free to ask. Let's see. Yeah, I'll address Jill's comment. Jill asked, what do you think about Trump clearing up the crime in the hood? About time. What do I think about Trump clearing up the crime in the hood? I mean, well, as far as I know, he's started that, like, what, in the last month? So I imagine there's not much progress going on. But I will guarantee you one thing, though. When they talk about clearing up the crime in the hoods, I would be willing to take a bet that there's a lot of police brutality going on. Not that that's funny, but I'd be willing to take a bet that there's a lot more of that going on in the hoods now, right? When they talk about cracking down on on what's going on there. And the truth is, if we're going to be honest, the reason why there's so much crime and hardship and garbage going on these hoods. Or I'll give you an example. Like, I was watching a video from Baltimore. I believe it was put up by this dude, Tyler Oliveira. Look him up. I believe, like, in the last week, he put up a video about the drugs that are in Baltimore, and he also did a whole documentary about what's this place called? Kensington Avenue, Philadelphia. Look that up on YouTube, right? They call it the zombie lane, right? People over there, walking around, looking like they're walking around like zombies, from the, some of these apocalyptic movies you see out here. It's real sad and bizarre, man. But the way that you fix the problem is not by sending in police to, beat people up and oppress people. But the way the government can actually fix these problems is by giving out, money to help people out with some of the problems they have. Because say if there was to be some type of like UBI, right, universal basic income, where they give people like say $1,000 a month, on top of the money that they are getting from their, work or whatever, that could help ease a lot of, suffering that people and families are going through out here. And you can't sit there and say that they can't afford it because, well, the U.S. government's paying, what, $500 billion to Ukraine, which isn't even, a country that's part of NATO at this point. Which, fun fact, by the way, I've heard that later on today, Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are actually meeting in Alaska to have a discussion about, the war in Ukraine and what solutions they can find. So that's going to be interesting to see what becomes of that. Though if I had to make a prediction, I'd be willing to predict that there's going to be no peaceful outcome, of the discussion. Maybe throw a couple ideas back and forth, but beyond that, there's really not going to be any type of, resolution that is, brought up, for lack of better terms. Let's see. Let me pull it up. Right Hand Ministry said, I go to Colombia for the cheaper lifestyle and oh yeah. Yeah, I hear you, man. Yeah, it's a lot more affordable over there, right? As far as Colombia in particular, I'd have to do more research on the country to find out like the price of living and stuff over there. But I'd be willing to take a bet that it's a lot more affordable than living in the United States. Like I even said before, man. I've seen businesses out here, offering 15 an hour, 18 an hour. It's like, well, the truth is, in modern day America, you know, even $20 an hour is not enough to live a good lifestyle. You can't even live a decent lifestyle on $20 an hour in the United States in 2025. That's just sad. Like I said before, even if we were making 30 an hour, it still wouldn't even be enough to live decently. You'd still have, strugglings every month to one degree or another, even if we were making $30 an hour. And the truth is, an empire can't thrive like that. There's going to come a point when this place is going to go down under. Now nobody knows when that's going to happen. You don't know if it's going to happen this year, next year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Nobody knows. We're all just, taking a guess. We're all just taking a guess, but, it's around the corner. But, empires don't go down in one day. Like Rome didn't fall in one day, happened over the course of decades, if you do the research into it. But, a lot of people don't like to do any research. Said, hey, it's Manny. Yeah, how you doing, Manny? I said, how's Shreg? I don't know, man. I don't know how Shrek's doing. He hasn't talked to me in like 2 years, and then even his right-hand man, Galapagos, he hasn't even talked to him either. So we don't know what Shrek's doing. Shit, for as far as I know, maybe the dude might not even be with us anymore, or maybe he, went back to India. Went back to Hinduism. I don't know. I don't know. But wherever he's at in the world, hopefully he's doing okay. So best of luck we wish to Shrek wherever he might be. What do you think about modern dating and being a passport? I don't know what you mean by being a passport. Maybe you mean getting a passport. But yeah, having a passport is good. And you know what? On that fact as well, I want to point out that, hold on a second, especially for Mr. Jill, if that dumbass is watching this. Doesn't it show that in America you can't really be free because in order to even leave the United States, you have to have a passport. So you need the government's permission to even leave the country. Like they're basically telling you that they own you and they can dictate where you can and cannot go. Like, that's bullshit. You shouldn't have to have a passport to travel to any country in the world. Right? That's the elite just telling you and showing you they believe they own you, and the population, they're like, whatever, man. All I know is Jesus. All I know is America. It's like, wow, this is sad. This is just sad. You'd think for a nation like America who brags about being, free and independent and liberty for all, you'd think people would be a little bit more smarter, than what they are out here. I mean, shit, there's knuckleheads walking around out here who don't even know how many states make up America. Knuckleheads out here that don't even know who the first president was. Knuckleheads out here that can't even show you Florida on the map. Being serious, by the way. I'm not even being sarcastic. Knuckleheads out here don't even know how many countries exist in the world. It's real damn bad out here. Real damn bad. And as far as this question about modern dating, well, dating is a joke. I was going to plan on doing a video today, but of course I couldn't get around to doing that due to the insect situation. But I was going to mention in that video that in today's day and age, it's probably a good idea to remain single. Like, say, for instance, if you read Apostle Paul's writings in, 1 Corinthians, the 7th chapter, he talks about, it's a good for a man to not touch a woman, and to remain, on his own. But nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man get his own wife and let every woman get her own husband. But what he's saying there is that it's perhaps a good thing to remain single, but, if you desire a woman, it's not a sin to get with that woman. But if you read the chapter, he talks about, if you do decide to get with a woman, there could potentially be many, hardships that come along with that. So in today's day and age, it might just be smart to remain a single man. But that won't work for every guy. Like, say, for instance, some guys out there might already have a wife and 2 kids. So obviously for that man, that's not an option. But for younger guys, that's something to take into consideration. And, some knucklehead will be like, well, wait a second. Well, how could y'all teach polygamy if you said that it might be good to remain single? It's like, well, very simple. Because having more than one wife is lawful. There's nothing wrong with having 2 or 3 wives, but you have to be able to financially support those women. Like, all you got to do is read Exodus 21:10, Deuteronomy 21:15, and on down from there. And they lay out the rules and regulations about man having more than one wife. So it's not a sin to do, but there are regulations involved. Like, if you are going to have 2 or 3 women, you have to be able to support those women. And if you can't do that, well, then you don't have any business getting 2 or 3 women if you can't financially support them and their children. And this is the part that's ignored and glossed over. Is obviously, while we do teach polygamy, that it's allowed, we obviously teach that there are guidelines and regulations involving it. But everybody will skip over that and just pretend like we're saying, well, just go get with any woman you see. It's like, obviously that's not what we're saying, but, people clearly lack the capability of paying attention and, listening, which is, truly, just sad and pathetic. You know what I'm saying? Here, bear with me for a second. Manny said, I make $50,000 a year and it all goes to paying bills and no savings. Yeah, I hear you, man. There's statistics that say that, like 80% of the population doesn't even have $400 put to the side for a emergency. That just shows you the way that everything is today, man. It's like, wow, if America really is the richest nation in the world and people are prospering in this country, well, how does 80% of the population not have $400 for an emergency? How is 90% of the population living paycheck to paycheck? And it just doesn't make sense. If it really is the richest nation in the world, well, how is there's poverty everywhere you look and suffering everywhere you look? How is it that, what is the statistic that 1 out of 3 school children, don't have a proper lunch? right? Or 1 out of 5 children have to go to bed hungry at night in the United States. Look that up. It's pathetic. Yeah, I said I'm pretty much a wage slave. Yeah, I hear you, man. We're all in that boat. But one thing I've been trying to do, as I said before, when I was 16 or 17, for 2 years, what I did is I saved all my $5 bills, right? So every time I got a $5 bill, whether it be from, working or selling something online or getting change back in the store, I would put away the $5 bills and not even attempt to touch those for 2 years. And if you discipline yourself and do that, I was able to save up $3,400 in 2 years just putting my fives away. And then I also put my coins away, like, pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters. I put them all away for 2 years, and I managed to save $1,200 by doing that, just by disciplining myself and putting that away and don't attempt to use it. So I'd recommend everybody try that. Well, of course, it's not going to be it's not going to change your life, having $4,000 put away, but it's certainly a big safety net to have. If you ever can't pay the rent fully or fall behind on some bills, you always have that money in reserve. Unfortunately, today I don't have any of that left. I had to dip into that money, but I'm starting over. Like, say for instance, recently, within like the last month, I started to save all my coins again. So I'm trying to save like $200, $300 in coins by 2026. Put that away and don't touch it. So hey, even if you can only do a little at a time, doing a little is better than nothing. Like, same thing with prepping. Having a little bit of food and extra water put to the side. Hey, even if you can only do a little bit, it's better than doing nothing, right? Even if you can only spend $5 or $10 a week on preparedness, that's better than sitting on your ass and doing nothing. Yeah, so guys out there that don't even have 2 weeks of food in your house, I'd recommend you go out and get two or 3 weeks, a month worth of food. Because let me tell you, son, if you have just 2 weeks worth of food put away in your pantry, you're already ahead of 90% of the population. The average American household has like 4 days worth of food in it. So again, if you have 2 weeks worth of food in your house, you are already ahead of 90% of the population. Take that into consideration. Not a lot of people think about that. Excuse the background noise here. Let me see the comments here. I think I hit most of the comments, but I'll just check over them. Yeah, brother said, I tell my dad I want to be single to avoid BS, and he tells me how I'm going to have great grandkids and not care what I have to go through. As I said, man, no offense, but your dad's just docile and ignorant. Your dad's just not living in reality. One second. That's a large ass fire truck right there. Christ. Truck's literally like, I want to say at least 50 foot long. Never seen one that long before. Anyway, yeah, we're already at a half an hour. Yeah, I didn't expect it was a half an hour already. That went by hella quick. But yeah, I don't think I have a whole lot else on my mind. We'll go a couple more minutes. Couple more minutes is fine. But yeah, yeah, man, it's crazy the shit that's going on out here, man. That's all I can say. It's just it's constant bullshit, aggravation and nonsense, going on out here, in that great city, Babylon, which is America. It's not the Vatican City. Oh, the Vatican City, right? Like Rock upon him. Oh, that's the Vatican City. So, Knucklehead, what the hell are you talking about, Vatican City? Knucklehead, do you even know that the Vatican is 2 square miles? It literally holds the world record for being the smallest nation in the world, the smallest country in the world. Look that up. I'm not making that up. This is a fact, right? The Vatican holds the world record for being the smallest country in the world. And there's literally only 600 people that live there. Again, look all this up. Don't believe what I'm saying. Fact check what I'm saying. But you're going to find out that I'm correct with what I'm saying. Unlike Mr. Jill and Mr. Ryan, side joke, but unlike Jill and Ryan, I actually look into the shit that I'm on here talking about. Like Ryan, I was shocked when Ryan, from Ryan Apologetics, look him up if you don't know the name, but Ryan from Ryan Apologetics, I was shocked. He told me that he believes that Christ is ruling the nations today. I was like, wow. He takes the position of a partial preterist. I was thinking to myself, like, wow, how the hell could you consider yourself to be a partial preterist today? Full preterism is batshit crazy in itself, but even partial preterism is insane to believe as well. Like, what the hell do you mean that Christ is ruling the nations today? It just makes no damn sense. I mean, you look at what's going on, right? The largest land war in 80 years is taking place today with no end in sight. You got hundreds of millions of people around the world that are, food insecure. You got pride parades in Israel. Hell, there's a whole war happening in Israel today. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what the hell are these knuckleheads talking about? Oh, Christ rules the nations. I mean, no, you're just, delusional and ignorant and just don't know what the hell you're talking about. I mean, the scriptures say, like, if you read Isaiah, the 2nd chapter, it says that when Christ, sits upon the throne and rules over the nations, there would be no war. It says the nations wouldn't learn war anymore. They'd beat their swords into plowshares and pruning hooks, which are basically, what's the word I'm looking for? They're equipments that are used for, like, farming, right? To cultivate the land and whatever. So they're putting down their weaponry and they're being put to work, right? In, like, farming and stuff. Which, that's going to be what the other nations in the kingdom have to do. They're going to be tasked with, building up the kingdom and, providing. Right? They're going to be paying tribute to Christ and to his chosen men. But that's a lesson for another time. But it shows they're not going to be in conflict anymore with one another. So how the hell is that happening today? That obviously is not happening. Just because Ryan, or as what's this guy? Just like Harry Green called him, Ryan, the lock neck monster. Which I ain't making fun of Ryan. I think that's terrible for Perry to call him something like that. But how the hell are you going to sit there and make fun of a man that broke his neck in a car accident, Mr. Perry? Right? Is that a real preacher right there? I mean, come on. That's pathetic, right? Oh, but that's a preacher right there, right? That's a true man of God, right? To sit there and make fun of a man who nearly died in a car accident. I mean, wow, that's amazing that there's knuckleheads out here who believe they're dumbasses like a Perry Green, the preacher, among all these, phony baloney, pork chop eating pastors here on YouTube. Pathetic. Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear what you're saying. Women's standards seem to be too high today, right? They want, meanwhile, while they're sitting there, looking like, a obese whale, they want a man that's, bringing in a 6-figure income. It's pathetic. It's pathetic, the relationships out here today, man, and the standards. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, women walking around out here, walking around, with tight clothing and, wearing, provocative outfits, but yet they get offended when men actually look at them and find them attractive out here, right? They call them, all women, creeps, for looking at them all attractive, but yet they're out here dressing like whores. Again, it's such a double standard. Such a double standard. So as I said, man, the truth is out here today, it's just not worth getting into relationships. And again, every man's in different position. Hey, if you have $1 million, maybe go ahead and get two wives if you can afford that. But hey, for the average man out here, it might just be smart to remain single. But hey, every man has his own circumstances, and that's just the way you got to look at it, man. Everybody's circumstance and situation is different, so you got to take it according to your, ability and situation. Oh, there's some men out here, that hell, with the wealth they have, they can have 20 women, some men out here, but that's not the average guy, but hey, as I said, everybody got to take it according to their personal position and circumstance. That's just the right way to do it. So yeah, man, it's hey, just another day in Babylon. Right, just another day in Babylon. I should entitle this stream "Surviving Babylon." Hell, that'll be that's a good name, right? Surviving Babylon. That's what we're trying to do right now, man. We're just surviving Babylon. And it's a challenge, right? There's men out here who haven't survived. Whether we're talking about financially, whether we're talking about like literally, right? Literally got gunned down by police out here, or an ex-wife. Trust me, I've seen these stories, man. I've seen the bullshit out here. So count ourselves lucky because some men haven't survived Babylon, right? Me and you, we have survived as far as today, but there's countless men out here who have became a casualty to this beast and to this great Babylon. They got men out here, having to give 80% of their paycheck away to an ex girlfriend or wife to pay child support, and then not even be allowed to see their children, one time a month maybe. It's brutal, some of the shit out here, man. And this is an unjust society. America is an unjust and wicked society. The word Babylon means confusion. America is absolute confusion. First of all, the word America means bitter. Look it up. Pure confusion out here. I seen a grown ass man in his 70s being pushed around in a baby stroller the other day. Grown ass man out here walking around looking like, Japanese schoolgirls, walking around Walmart. Wow, this is crazy. Got grown ass men out here, going on walks like a damn dog, being leashed up, taking a piss in the neighbor's yard. Look this up. This is real. This isn't even being sarcastic. This is real. This is actually happening now. Now this is bizarre. It's bizarre what's going on out here, man. So yeah, living in Babylon is a challenge, right? It is a challenge to live in America. And sure, while it is true, you do have some luxuries over here that you don't have in other countries, such as, stores are always stocked with food. There's always running water for baths and showers and to wash your hands. Well, millions of people don't have access to that. That's true. But is it really worth all the aggravation and misery that comes along with living here? Is it really worth, busting your ass to pay, $80 of your paycheck to rent? Is it really worth it over here? I don't know, man. Let me see. But I call myself one, two. Yeah, I would say that I am. Yeah, I would. I'd agree with you on that. I would agree with you on that. I personally, I would consider myself to be a gray man. Look that up. A gray man is a term used in the prepper community, which means somebody that like blends in with the crowd. They don't stand out, right? Like say, for instance, like when I go to Walmart or in a crowd somewhere, nobody will look at me and say, "Oh, well, that guy has 6 months of food at home. That guy has, a few rifles. That guy has, 300 cans of beans under the bed. That guy has 10 grand saved up." Which, by the way, I don't have all those things, but just a hypothetical example. If people were to look at me, I blend in. I don't stand out, and that's a strategic thing. You don't want to stand out next to everybody else. Like say for instance, people that got wealth out here. A lot of people, typically shop at like thrift stores and whatnot. Right, that's where a lot of wealthy individuals buy their clothing. But meanwhile, on the other hand, guys out here, they might get, a $20,000, check or whatever for one time in their life, and they'll go out and blow it in 2 months, buying Gucci clothing and, $1,000 shoes, and shit like that. But the true wealthy people, one second, the true people with wealth out here, they dress inexpensively, right? Like their whole outfit, in many instances, could be like what, $50 worth of material. But some of the people out here who are poor, literally buying $100 pants and shirts and shoes, right? Wearing a $400 or $500 outfit. That's typically not how the rich spend their money out here. Again, the average person out here, once they get their hands on a little bit of wealth, they blow it away. Like there's countless people out here who have, won these lotteries out here. Say maybe won, 200 grand, 800 grand, a million. When they blow all that wealth away in 5 years, living on their ass now on the street or in a storage unit. It seems like that's a current trend now, right? People out here living in storage units. Wow. But you don't want to be like some of these people out here. You want to be, smarter with how you spend your money. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to rant about for today. Here, give me 1 second. Yeah, I'm hoping that the traffic isn't too bad out here. Hell, it's loud for me, but I don't know how it's coming through the microphone. So hopefully it's not too bad. But hey, as I said, nothing I can really do about it, in this circumstance. All right, I'm gonna grab a drink. I'll be right back. All right, let's throw my contact up there in case there's any new viewers who would like to get in contact with me. You can contact me at that number, or not number, Gmail. It's funny. There is this one knucklehead. I believe I covered this before, but I'll just quickly mention it. There's a knucklehead on Ryan's stream. I went on Ryan's show maybe a month and a half ago. I went on for a discussion. There was this one knucklehead who called in. I don't even know the cat's name, but the guy's like, oh, well, let's all debate about, where true Israel is, right? The knucklehead saying, oh, Africa was actually the land of Israel in the past. You ask him, well, what part of Africa was Israel at? Oh, I don't know, man. It was just there. It's like, okay, I mean, the truth is we don't really have time to debate things like this. We don't have time for, knuckleheads with, bullshit doctrines. Like, say, for instance, like this other cat out there, what's this cat called? That full preterist guy, Truth and Teller's Ministry. Yeah, Truth and Teller's Ministry. Dude is on there and wanted to debate about, is preterism true? Are we living under Christ today? Are all things fulfilled? I mean, hey, look, we're really at a point in time where we don't have time to debate knuckleheads on these retarded topics. You know what I'm saying? We're beyond that right now. We have a limited amount of patience at this point, to deal with all these, knuckleheads and these garbage ass, doctrines that are popping up every week. Like, I'll give you an example. Like I just found out recently that these knuckleheads in the Genesis camp, right, Deacon Hakah and Facade, They now teach that you don't have eternal life in the kingdom of heaven. Like, what the hell are these knuckleheads talking about? Talking about that it's basically like a reincarnation, right? You might live 100 years and then have to, come back again. It's like, wow, it's just crazy, man. It's crazy. But we don't have time for knuckleheads like this. Let's see. Yeah, I seen that StreamYard went up to like what, $50 a month now, which is pretty damn high. It used to be like $25, right? It used to be like $25. Um, and I remember Jay was paying like $25 for it, but then he, I believe he still actually is. But yeah, I just use a free version. You know what I'm saying? There's no reason to spend $25 if you could just use it for free, just limited to like 20 hours a month. But that's all you need. You don't need 30 hours. You don't need 50 hours, right? 20 hours a month is enough, and you can make that stretch. Yeah, well, I'll go for 3 more minutes. I'll wrap this up at 50 minutes. That seems like a reasonable amount of time for now. Let's see. Okay. Maybe just glance over the chat, make sure I didn't skim over anything here. But yeah, I haven't saw Manny in a while, so it was cool seeing him here earlier. It's been a while since I've seen him. All right. Let me just check my banners here. Make sure everything's working smoothly. When I logged on to StreamYard, it made me redo the like microphone settings for some reason. So hopefully it's hopefully it works smoothly. What do I think about the incel trend? It's in some aspects is a good thing, man. People are not out here spending the money. Don't have money to spend. Not going to parties anymore. Not really interacting with much other people. Yeah, shit. I see people online joking, like say on Reddit or something. Be like, "Oh, I haven't went out of the house, in 9 months. And we haven't went to the movie theaters, in two damn years, or any mall or whatever." Hey, on one hand it's a good thing, on one hand it's a bad thing. It just depends. But all right, that's about 50 minutes here, so I'm going to wrap this up. If anybody made it to the end, put hashtag 50. Hashtag 50 if anybody made it to the end.